Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I am Dr. Abeer Moheb, an assistant professor at the Hare Institute of Art and Literature, Translation and Artistic Media. I'm going to present my paper entitled Reviving Egyptian Legacy to Promote Children's Cultural and Heritage Awareness, a comparative study of poet laureate Ahmad Shawqi's and the French fabulist Jean de La Fontaine's selected children fables. سوف أقوم بعرض البحث الذي سوف أشارك فيه في المؤتمر الدولي الثامن برعاية أكاديمية الفنون، ويحمل البحث عنوان إحياء التراث المصري لتعزيز الوعي الثقافي والتراثي لدى الأطفال، دراسة مقارنة للحكايات الشعرية المختارة للأطفال في أشعار كل من أمير الشعراء أحمد شوقي وكاتب الحكايات الفرنسي جان دي لا فونتان. وسوف أقوم بعرض البحث باللغة الإنجليزية. Okay. We will see the outline of the presentation. I'll speak about the aim of the study, a hint about Ahmad Shawqi and Jean de La Fontaine's life, and I'll discuss the narrative techniques and poetic expressions in Shawqi and La Fontaine's fables, and I'll throw light on selected fables by Shawqi and La Fontaine beside the conclusion. Okay. The aim of the study: this study examines the role of children's animal fables in reviving Egyptian heritage and promoting cultural awareness among young generations through a comparative analysis of the works of Amir al-Shara Ahmad Shawqi and the French fabulist Jean de La Fontaine. Shawqi was born in 1868 and died in 1932, and he was known as the Prince of Poets. He developed Arabic children's literature, a genre that was not known during his time, and he concentrated on poetry and fables. Shawqi in his writings derived from the Holy Quran, books of Proverbs and Arabic wise sayings, while La Fontaine criticized the French authority using satire and irony. Shawqi concentrated on conveying wisdom and moral virtues for children. Both Shawqi and La Fontaine were inspired by Aesop's fables, Kalila Udimna, and the Indian and Persian storytelling traditions. So their fables used animals as symbolic figures to teach moral and ethical lessons. This study also highlights how these selected fables are an educational tool that shape children's moral values, as well as reinforcing their national identity and preserving culture. Okay, I'll give now a hint about Ahmad Shawqi's life. Ahmad Shawqi was known as Amir al-Shara. He was born in the 17th of October 1868 in Cairo, Egypt. He died at the 14th of October 1932, and he at the age of 63. He was a poet and a playwright, and he always wrote in Arabic, but his works has been translated to many languages, and he wrote poems, drama, and prose, and he belongs to the Arab Neoclassicism. Shawqi was an Egyptian poet laureate, a linguist, and one of the most Arabic literary writers in the Arab world. He lived between 1868 and 1932, and this period has witnessed a lot of events by Arab and Islamic nations. These events greatly influenced his life and his poetry. He lived in Egypt during the British occupation, and he lived through the Arabi Revolution, as well as witnessed the British occupation of Egypt, as well as the national movement led by Mustafa Kemal and Muhammad Farid. He was also exiled to Spain by the British after the First World War in 1914 and the overthrow of Khedive Abbas. He advocated the 1919 revolution in Egypt, supporting the fighters and witnessing the national strife while being in exile. He returned from his exile in 1920, and he was greatly influenced by the European lifestyle, but this especially the French one, but this didn't affect his Oriental origin. Okay, Shawqi's works: he wrote plays and prose. The plays: he was the first in modern Arabic literature to write poetic plays. He wrote 5 tragedies. The first was Majnun Layla, the mad about Layla, his first play, and the death of Cleopatra, Antara Ali Bil Kibir, and he also wrote 2 comedies, El Set Huda and El Bakhil. Okay, he wrote many poetry, and it was collected in his well-known volume El Shawqiyat, and this El Shawqiyat falls into four volumes. The first one is about the first volume is about Nahj al-Burda, a tribute to Prophet Muhammad alayhi afdal salam, and the state of Arabs and the great man of Islam, a long poem about the history of Islam. And also we have the poetic stories for children inspired by the famous French fabulist Jean de La Fontaine, and these poetic stories or poetic fables are the focus of my research. Prose, he also wrote prose, as he wrote chapters of prose collected under the title of The Markets of Gold. So Ahmad Shawqi was considered as the greatest poet within the Arabic New Classicist movement by scholars. Okay, as for Jean de La Fontaine, the French fabulist, he was born in the 8th of July 1621, Château, France, and he died in the 13th of April 1965 at the age of 73. And he was a fabulist and a poet, and he only had children. Okay, Jean de La Fontaine was born in 1621 and died in 1695. He was a famous French poet and fabulist, and he was best known for his fables, which remained one of the most distinguished works in French literature. He was born in Château, France. He initially studied theology and law before dedicating himself to literature. His career was supported by patrons such as Nicolas Foucault and others. He later found favor in the court of King Louis the 17th, and despite his financial difficulties, La Fontaine became a prominent figure in French literary circles and was elected to the Académie Française in 1984. La Fontaine's fables were published in multiple volumes between 1668 and 1694. They were derived from classical sources from Asst, Fabulist, and Indian fables, but he transformed them into elegant French verse, adapting them to the social and political content of the 17th century France. Okay, as for his fables, in which he was famous, and this was the focus of my research, he published his fables into two segments. The first, his initial volume of 1668, and the second, an accretion of books of fables appearing over the next 25 years. The 1668 fables follow the Aethiopian pattern, but the later ones branch out to satirize the court, the church, and the rising bourgeois, as well as the whole human scene. La Fontaine's great theme was the folly of human vanity, and his satiric themes permitted him an enlargement of poetic diction, and he gave him a new impulse to the genre throughout Europe, and the 19th century saw the rise of literature written specially for children, in whom fable found a new audience. And it is clear that La Fontaine was French and he wrote in French, but I have chosen the translation of his book, The Complete Fables of Jean La Fontaine, by Norman Spiro, to depend in it in analyzing his poems, as it was translated into English. Okay, La Fontaine, in writing his fables, he focused on certain themes such as wisdom, humility, and justice. He also probed the human nature, where he discussed themes such as greed, cunning, deception, and the struggles between the strong and the weak. Some fables also criticized power, corruption, and hypocrisy, reflecting the realities of Louis XVII's reign. Among his famous works were The Grasshopper and The Ant, emphasizes the importance of hard work and foresight. We have also The Fox and the Crow, reflected the dangers of flattery and deception, whereas The Wolf and the Lamb showed how the powerful often justified oppression against the weak. And finally, The Tortoise and the Hare highlighted that determination and patience overcame arrogance. Okay, we'll have a look at the narrative techniques and poetic expression in Shawqi's and La Fontaine's fables. Though Ahmad Shawqi and La Fontaine belonged to different cultures and ages, they used animal fables as a tool to revive the cultural heritage of their countries, as well as conveying moral lessons to children through their fables. La Fontaine revived the fable genre in France, where he was inspired by Aesop's fables. His fables often featured anthropomorphized animals carrying human-like traits, criticizing social behaviors. La Fontaine's narratives were short, ironical, and satirical, criticizing human flaws and vices. His use of humor and satire not only entertained but also stimulated readers to reflect on moral lessons within the tales. Okay, we will have a look at the cultural difference in storytelling and moral education. Despite their different historical and cultural backgrounds, Shawqi and La Fontaine show how storytelling serves as a tool for moral education and social criticism. Okay, as for Shawqi, he used his fables as a moral education for children, while La Fontaine, his fables were social and political satire. As for the tone, Shawqi's fables were serious and didactic, while La Fontaine's witty and ironic. For the themes, Shawqi discussed justice, humility, divine will, and for La Fontaine, he focuses on power, deception, and human flaws. For the target audience for Shawqi was children and general readers, while La Fontaine adult intellectuals, and Shawqi was influenced by Islamic ethics كليلة ودمنة, while La Fontaine was inspired by Asst and Enlightenment philosophy. So Shawqi displayed the Middle Eastern approach rooted in divine justice and moral responsibility, while La Fontaine reflects the European approach focused on rationalism and social criticism. Generally, both traditions highlight universal truths about human nature, showing how storytelling continues to shape moral consciousness across cultures. Okay, we have a look on the selected fables chosen by the candidate to discuss or analyze Shawqi and La Fontaine's fables. We have Shawqi fables, The Fox and the Rooster, which was one of his most fables. As for La Fontaine, it is entitled The Cock and the Fox. For Shawqi, we have The Greedy Dog, and La Fontaine, The Dog and Its Reflection. For Shawqi, we have The Wolf and the Lamb for both Shawqi and La Fontaine, and then The Donkey and the Horse and the Donkey. Background. Shawqi in his fable used Arabic tradition meter and rhymed couplets, which made it easy for children to memorize his poems and also grasp the moral lessons that were given through his fables. In his fable entitled The Donkey and the Horse, Shawqi used two well-known figures or animals in Arab culture, the donkey and the horse. The former symbolized hard working as well as naivety, and the latter represented bravery and nobility. On the other hand, La Fontaine, the horse, and the donkey, le cheval et l'âne, highlighted the French-European perspective, as his fables were influenced by French Enlightenment ideals that criticized human nature and social hierarchy as well. He also warned his readers against blind ambition and imitation. Okay, at the end we will show the difference between Ahmad Shawqi and Jean La Fontaine. As for the cultural background, we all know that Ahmad Shawqi is Egyptian, Arabic, and Islamic, and while La Fontaine is French-European, influenced by Renaissance humanism, and Ahmad Shawqi was mainly influenced by Islamic ethics, Kalila, Udemna, and the Arabic poetry, while La Fontaine was influenced by Aesop's fables, classical antiquity, and Indian culture. The purpose of fables for Ahmad Shawqi is moral education for children and nationalism, and for La Fontaine, moral lessons plus the political and social satire. And the themes discussed in Ahmad Shawqi is honesty, justice, passion, Arab culture, identity, thumma, Islamic ethics of morals, while La Fontaine discussed deception, power struggles, satire of human nature, and the writing style. As for the writing style, Shawqi wrote in classical Arabic poetry, rhymed verse, while La Fontaine wrote in French poetic style, short verse, elegant phrasing. And we have, as for the satire and criticism, Shawqi limited political satire, focused on moral values, while La Fontaine wrote strong social and political satire against French monarchy. Okay, to sum up, both Ahmad Shawqi and Jean de La Fontaine made use of animals' fables as a literary device to convey moral lessons and criticize social norms. Their narrative techniques and poetic expressions reflected their different cultural backgrounds, but they had something in common, as they used symbolic or allegorical storytelling to educate the readers. They were determined to revive the heritage and legacy of their own countries in a way to support children's awareness. Consequently, the above-mentioned facts showed the importance of children's literature in general and of poetry in particular as a literary and educational tool. Thank you.